Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again for another Appalachian Trail community news, thru hiker update, and trail information. Well, just got back hot off the trail myself from Massachusetts, doing it Sobo from North Adams up near the state line all the way down into Connecticut. So it was a great trip. Really enjoyed my trip there. Really enjoyed my hike. Saw a ton of you guys out there on the trail. Thanks for everybody that came up to me and chatted to me and just said, hey, how's it going? And we got a chance to talk on the trail. I appreciate you taking time out of your hike to do that. So it was a good time. I've got more video for every day coming up here, and I'll be dropping those in the next couple weeks. So be on the lookout for those. Hope you can get something out of those. You get to see a little bit of what's going on up there on the Appalachian Trail. But let's get to what you came here, not for me, but you came here to hear about what's going on with the folks out there on the trail. So let's jump right in. So Lolly and Pop, they are around 220 miles from Katahdin. So they are going to be summiting here in the very near future. They say they're feeling a bit tired of dodging all the mud holes, but they're excited to be counting down the days to Katahdin. Some should be somewhere around 14 days before they finish. Hollywood, he's in Massachusetts and almost to Vermud. Dang Dog and Picky Eater, they are in northern Massachusetts and should be crossing into Vermont any day now. And I got to see them on the trail while I was out, and that was very neat. The mom and daughter team of Lucky Penny and Prickleberry, they have summited on their flip-flop, and now they've flipped back down south, and they're going to be continuing their flip-flop after that. They say Maine was the hardest state, but they really enjoyed seeing parents with their kids there in Baxter State Park, and parents bringing up the next generation of hikers out there, just spending time in creation in the great outdoors with their kids. They just said that just really thrilled their soul, and they encourage all parents to get outside with their kids and do likewise and make those memories that last forever with a child. You know, you're probably going to forget about what the latest CD you bought was, or the game you bought, whatever that was, but you'll always remember the time that you went with your parents somewhere hiking. So that is just always glad to hear that. She also says she's also very blessed to have Prickleberry joining her. And they wanted to give a shout out to her husband, who has been working from the road, but has also been helping them out with resupply and shuttles and so on and so forth. Good to hear that from her. Petrarch, he has made the jump and he's went ahead and flipped up, and he's in Vermont. And then he says Vermont still holds true to its nickname of Vermud. And I've heard where it is like calf deep in some places through there. But that he says that the trail is still off in the water source, as I have reminded folks of on a regular basis. So, yep, it can be during those heavy deluges that we have down there. But anyway, he's going to go up Summit Katahdin and come back and pick up where he flipped up. Skipper and Texas Pete, they have crossed into Georgia on their Sobo, and this is Sobo that they started in 2022. They've hiked 1,600 miles as a family, and they are going to be finishing up in a few days and doing the last 600 miles of the AT this summer altogether. So obviously they're not going to be doing 600 miles in a few days, but they've done that this summer. Blue, he has made it to Vermud, and I just missed him on trail in Massachusetts. We must have crossed each other while I ducked into the K-Wood shelter or went in and got dried out there from a trail angel, Monica, who helped me out there and got me dry and fed me and let me take a shower and just kept me dry for the afternoon while it was raining. So, and we'll hear more about that later on. But in any case, I must have just missed him somewhere in between that connection, Blue. Three Tack, she has made it to Dalton, Massachusetts. She's taking the weekend off and going to go up to New Hampshire and surprise some family members up there. But then she's going to get back on trail there in Massachusetts, and got to meet her on trail. That was really cool to sit there and just all of a sudden run into somebody. She was in her had her head net on, so I didn't recognize her at first, but she spoke to me and recognized me and then took her head net off. We had a great conversation for 15 to 20 minutes. Good break right there on the trail. As we were talking, Flipper came through, so he is a Brit that's over here now, and he is what's called a myth. So he could only get a 90-day uh, tourist visa at a time. Then he has to go back, wait a period of time, and get another 90-day tourist visa. And so he is what's called a multi-year through hiker. So that's what he's. Somebody called him a myth, and so he has taken that moniker up. But in any case, good to see him there on the trail as well. McDuck, the Okie, and JFK, they have survived the mud, the flood, and the bugs of Vermont, and they are into New Hampshire. And just for some perspective for folks, for 10 days to 2 weeks ago, the flooding and stuff that went on up there in Vermont, McDuck sent in this on a Ford that typically the day before people could have taken with dry feet and not really fording. They could have rock hopped it. And they rightly so decided to turn around. So let's go ahead and roll that video. Wow, that is a lot of water moving down the trail. And so that's crazy. And I've seen some other water sources. Maybe I'll share those with you later. Places where it wasn't even a water source to begin with, but it's amazing the power of water and what it can do down there. And so appreciate you sending that in, McDuck. Blade Runner is in Stratton and working her way south on her subboat trip. She left Katahdin on June 14th. Jeff and Maya, they have made it to Maine. They are said they came through the Mahoosic Knock when there was some heavy rain and flooding happened, and they planned on it being a 3-day hike. It turned into a 4-day hike. They had to stay in the shelter for a couple extra days, but they had an extra day's worth of food there. And that the shelter after that, the full goose shelter, was full of hikers waiting to go through the notch that day. And they said they had another friend who left early that morning before the heavy rain, managed to get in and got stuck there in the Mahoosic Knock due to high water and flooded streams on each side of it. And she didn't feel safe to cross. So fortunately, she had extra food as well for an extended stay at a shelter. So the main thing they want to come in is that you have to be prepared. You need to look at the weather. They're going to be forecasting, putting up notices about flash flooding. But flash flooding is just what it says it is. It's something that happens very, very, very quickly, and you don't know that it's coming. And I'm looking away off camera right now because there's a doe right over there. Now, I know y'all are used to seeing my dogs run around the video. I don't know if you'll get to see this doe run around in my video. Probably not, because now she's seeing my wife's doodle over there. But it's pretty unique to be sitting out here in the woods, in my woods, talking to you guys, and there's a doe 50 yards away up there. So anyway, let me get on to that. I'm going to keep an eye on that doe and see if she comes down here. But in any case, they also said that they are starting to see more subos now. Mike Lown and Strider, they have hiked into New Jersey. BD, she has made it to the Bigelows, says it's kind of cool in Maine. So I asked her what the heat was like there, and she actually said that it's kind of cool up there where she's at. And I asked her about water crossings, and she says sometimes you do have to bushwhack about 200 or 300 yards up the stream in order to make that water crossing, get to a place where it's not as wide. She had a friend that tried to make the water crossing, went under, and was traumatized for a couple of days because of that. So she says it's crazy out there. She was able to cross there at the Kennebec Ford or the Kennebec Canoe River crossing. Dustin Trottis, he has made it to the Warwick Drive Theater at the New York border. North Star has made it through to New Hampshire. Boston, he has made it past Wrangley, Maine. Cobweb Rose, Snapshot, and Mountain Crusher, they have made it to Great Barrington, Massachusetts. And I must have missed them on the trail by 1 day. So I took the picture here at the Connecticut state line, and the next day I saw their picture at the Connecticut state line. So pretty cool to see that. Or actually, she's behind on her updates, and so she actually sent me this picture. So appreciate that, Cobweb Rose, and very sorry that I missed you out there on the trail. So my doodle dog just ran up there, and now that doe has gone over to see where the doodle dog has ran. So that's amazing. Wildlife's just amazing. We did have some summits of folks that we've been updating. So Oz the Hiking Sailor, he summited. He was number 795 at Amicalola Falls. Then he got to Harper's Ferry. He was number 195. And at Baxter, he was summit number 97. So she just, nope, she's not taking off. She's still looking at me. He was number 97. So, and then we also had OG. So he summits today with his family. So that is awesome. They are probably already up and back down by now, but he just hasn't had time and hasn't had signal to be able to get me his summit picture yet. So we'll be able to show you his summit picture and feature that in an upcoming video here real soon. Before we get into the news portion, I want to give a thanks out to Mike Emerwar 5832 for the super thanks. Appreciate that, Mike. That is awful nice of you. Appreciate you supporting my channel out there in that fashion, in a very tangible way. So thanks a lot for doing that. If you're somebody out there who would like to do the same way, the super thanks link is right down below. You can always join and become a Patreon member and do it likewise. And then you can also leave a thumbs up. That really helps pull more people on YouTube, direct more people to this channel, and so that we can help build the hiker community and support more in the hiker community. So you can do that. You subscribe to this channel and leave a comment down below. Always love to hear your comments and greatly appreciate dialoguing with you through those comments. And if you got a question at all, please answer that. If I don't know the answer, I'll either find it out, find somebody that does, or I'll make up something that sounds really good. All right, so let's get on to the news now. So hikers out there are aware that over the past couple of weeks, we had some really huge storms that moved through, caused a lot of flooding up in New York and Vermont. And so there has been some trail closures, and but in New York has not been any trail closures. In Vermont, there are some roads and stuff that have been closed that make it more difficult for shuttle drivers to get to trail crossings. And so there has been some folks that had to do rail walks where the trail crossing was to get to their shuttle and or leaving the shuttle and get back to the trail. They've had to do road walks. So just keep that in mind as you're going through there. It's going to take a while for some of that infrastructure to get rebuilt and put back together. The trail there in the Bear Mountain State Park has been closed, although I've heard of folks getting through there. There was just a sign. It wasn't a barricade or anything up. That just a sign that said it's closed, and then the sign said, "Be careful." Or proceed with caution, or not proceed with caution, but use caution, something like that. But it didn't actually say, just said closed, didn't say don't go through here. So it was kind of weird. And I know some hikers went through there and they made it through there. They said there were some washouts of the trail, but not a lot significant, a lot of blowdowns through there. Um, and I'm not suggesting that you go through a section that has a sign up that says closed. So don't hear me saying that or anything like that. Just keep in mind that due to damage and cleanup efforts, shuttles or normal resupply may not be possible, certainly could be difficult. So where you feel like you're doing that, you should call ahead. Make sure you're going to be able, within a couple days to make sure that you'll be able to get a shuttle, and shuttle driver that you want is running in that area. Some shuttles may not be running because they're cleaning up, where they had damage. And so other shuttle drivers that are running will be inundated. So you need to get in touch with shuttles a couple days in advance. Consider carrying extra food, like instead of just the 3-day, you might want to carry 5 or 6 days. And that would get you a whole lot further through the flooded, damaged area, where less likely that shuttle folks are working on, their own personal stuff that got damaged. So we'll talk a little bit more about utilizing those services in those areas that have damaged here in just a minute. So we'll bring that up in just a minute. But there have been lots of high water stuff that the ATC has put out, really more than we can cover right now. So I would encourage you to go to the ATC site and look for those. Some of those, though, are very dated. Like some of them date back to when it happened 2 weeks ago, and they haven't updated it since then. And so they may not be pertinent now. So your best source may be going to Gut Hooks. I'm sorry, it's now called Far Out's the Far Out app, and looking on the app and seeing what the comments are. If you're going through an area that you know was closed before, or comments through that area showed it being closed or being an impossible ford, then please update Gut Hooks so that you can tell people that it's okay, they can come through now, because that's really the best source out there, the most current source for people to do that. The ATC has not been updating their website using that method, or I'm not sure how they get their information out there. They probably get it from trail clubs, but trail clubs are not out there on the trail every day like folks are that are backpacking on the trail every day. And then the ATC will still recognize your for the 2,000 miler certification, which is normally given just to people that through hike, because one of the things you have to say is that you made you have to give a testimony that you tried to hike every mile of the trail. So they have decided they're going to give that out even if you had to skip the entire state of Vermont. I guess they had more flooding in Vermont than New York. New York had a lot of flooding. The Hudson Bridge there that the AT crosses over was closed to traffic, and people were walking right down the middle of the bridge, middle of the road. But apparently Vermont had a lot more damage. But as far as infrastructure, but the trail has not been closed. The Green Mountain Club that is in charge of the long trail that shares the treadway with the AT through Vermont has said that all of the trail is open. There are some damaged portions of the trail. There are some portions of the trail that were washed out, but none of it's closed. So the ATC is actually referring you to the Green Mountain Club's website for updates on that. And the Green Mountain Club has not closed any of the AT through Vermont. So you can still get through, and apparently you've always been able to get through. But the according to the ATC, what they say is, in the event of an emergency such as a flood, a forest fire, an impending storm, Blue Blaze trails or officially required road walks, shuttles, or find your own transportation options are viable substitutes for the white blazed route. Okay, so I kind of have some issues with that. Now, I know forest fires can last for a long time, and you may not be able to hunker down somewhere for weeks or months on end. Floods don't last forever, and the trail has not been closed through there. So during the flood, you want to get off the trail anyway, just to prevent, just so that you're not in danger during the impending storm, be it thunderstorms or be it tornadoes. And we had a tornado warning while we were out there in Massachusetts on trail. It's a good idea to get off trail if you can. But all those storms and stuff, they do not last forever. Those things do not last forever, floods. So you can hold up. So I'm not sure why they're telling you not to do it for a flood. Now I could see if it was a flood that went on and it wiped out part of the trail, certainly you would have to circumnavigate around the portion of the trail that's wiped out, or the bridge it was wiped out, or what have you. But not the whole state of Vermont now, and I don't see how that's a substitute for the white blazed route. So particularly find your own transportation option. So, I've heard of people renting bikes, certainly road walks, where road walks were not necessary, renting bikes, taking the cog railway up Mount Washington because of a storm coming in. Not saying y'all are, that anybody like that is, I'm not going to be the person to call you a cheater or anything else. I'm just saying I don't know that's within the spirit of a through hike. I'd like to know your opinion down below. If I'm all wet on that, let me know. No pun intended. If I'm all wrong, let me know. If you agree, let me know why you agree with that. And let me know why you disagree with that. So don't want to throw shade on anybody's hike. If you had to skip 100 miles, a couple hundred miles because of flooding and stuff, you've hiked over 2,000 miles. So that is certainly nothing to be ashamed of, but it needs to be a real reason, not something that you did just for convenience. I know a lot of times people do stuff, and I'm guilty of this. They might take a shortcut because they're tired, particularly when you get to Massachusetts and Vermont, New Hampshire. You're just tired. I've heard this from hikers before, and you're just counting down the days and you're ready for it to be over. And sometimes people will take shortcuts just because they're tired, and it's what they're doing is getting monotonous. So just I'd like to hear what how y'all feel about that. And one of the things that I feel about not coming off trail in areas where there's a total disaster is I did have some issues with taking my Massachusetts hike because I am very missions minded, so I like to go on missions work. So when the towers came down at Ground Zero, I was there a month after. When the war in Ukraine started, I was there starting February. I was there in March helping Ukrainian refugees. Not toot my own horn. Don't hear me saying that. What I am saying is that I feel like we do need to help people in those areas. And one of the ways you can help people in these areas is by using their services. If they're too busy cleaning up, then they will need that extra revenue from their services, and they'll need you utilizing their services and paying them that revenue so that that can help them recover. I had some trepidation about taking my Massachusetts hike because it was so close to Vermont, and I felt like maybe I need to go up there and help people. But then I had a good friend of mine said, if you were planning on hiking in Georgia, not Massachusetts, or Virginia, and not Massachusetts, you would take that hike rather than come up here. And so that is probably correct. So I can support them in other ways through giving to different organizations. I give to the North Carolina Baptist men who are mission minded, and that's who I do my mission trips with, and get them up there. And there still may be an opportunity for me to go up there and help. So, but in any case, right now, the way that hikers can help through there. And certainly, if you're a hiker going through that area and you want to stop your hike for a period of time and go help people, that is awesome. By all means, if that's what you're being told inside to do, if that's what the Lord's telling you to do, if that's what the Spirit's telling you to do, then go and do that. But otherwise, continue your hike, utilize those services, help the people out, maybe give them a little bigger tip than you normally would, but use their services because they're going to need that income up there. Spineless Cougar, he's a trail angel up in from New York, but he goes over and does trail angel work and does trail magic in Vermont, and he came down to Massachusetts, and I came through his site on my hike, so that was pretty cool to experience that. But he said he has seen very few subos this year, so the subos have not gotten down in mass yet to Massachusetts or even Vermont. He also said that the number of hikers is much lower than in previous years. So Spineless Cougar's been doing this for many years. So he would be a good authority to know how many folks are coming down. He gets out there usually about once a week, if not more. He is looking to see the numbers pick up as the mid-March bubble gets closer and closer to him. He also gets pack weights from everybody up there, or the people that will allow him to do that. He asked for my pack weight. I was too ashamed to give it to him because it felt really heavy. And so I didn't give him my pack weight. But the pack weights he had this pack week, there was an average of 29 with a high of 47 pounds and a low of 21. So I don't, what possibly could be the difference to where the 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 what is the 47 pounder got that the 21 pounder doesn't have and doesn't need, because he's got over more than 50% less than what the 47 pounder. So that's amazing and that's a lot of weight. And I know that gives you the average of 29. So those are two outliers, high and low. So the median is really more of the telling weight there. The median range or the median pack weight was 27 pounds. So not too far off their average though. But indeed, the mid-March bubble is getting right there into Massachusetts. The heat map here shows us that. When I was on my Massachusetts hike this past week, all the nobos that I was talking to, they were in that mid-March, so March 10th to March 20th. They had left in that mid-March area, and of course that's when the biggest bubble is that is left Springer and Amicalola Falls State Park down there. So that's lining up. I kind of thought that, and of course they're all spread out as well. So that's kind of the tail end of the bubble, I guess. And this heat map kind of shows, the bubble, the midpoint of the bubble, really being more in northern Vermont around New Hampshire, and so that's why I think the heat map is maybe behind by about 2 weeks. But that's because it comes from old data, and people have moved up there. They are leaving earlier and earlier now than they were when the data was pulled for this heat map here. And then Whispers, our northern correspondent, he said Baxter State Park has published some walkarounds for potentially dangerous water crossings in and around near Baxter State Park. And this was created by Wendy Weiger. She is a manager up there at the Monson AT Visitor Center. And I'll leave a link down below to these maps. So she's created a lot of maps of some workarounds up there for flooded areas. But before you take these road walks, I would check far out and make sure that they are indeed fords that are too high that you can't do. And hikers that are going through these areas, if please check gut. I keep saying gut hooks because it used to be gut hooks for years. Please check far out and see if the comments say that it's a dangerous ford, and if it is, please make a comment that it's not. And of course, that'll be dated, and we'll know when if that was current, and if significant rain has happened since then. And then Jacob Van Dyke, he sends in this information that there's going to be a pedestrian bridge that's in the works to be built across the McAfee Knob trailhead, the road crossing there at the trailhead there in Roanoke, Virginia. So haven't heard of anybody getting hit or killed there, but it is a very dangerous, it's like 4 or 5 lanes of traffic, and traffic's just hauling it up there, and it is on a blind curve. So it's a very dangerous crossing. Really does need a pedestrian bridge. So right now it's just in the works. They haven't got funding for it or anything else. And then Rick Lawrence sent this in about Zpacks. So Zpacks back in July of 2021 was closed due to it was closed from all camping from groups larger than 10 going up there. From all overnight camping, anybody being in there, I think after dusk and before dawn. So, or maybe an hour after dusk, an hour before dawn. So it's okay if you go up there to watch the sunrise or the sunset, but then you have to leave shortly thereafter. And the reason is because during COVID, it was completely inundated with campers. So people wanted to get outside. Campgrounds were closed. Local folks, and I guess folks from all over that knew about Zpacks went up to Zpacks, and this is what it looked like. So created a lot of damage up there, and this went on for, I'm sure, a while, several weekends at least, and they would leave trash and fecal matter and waste products, and just people that didn't care a thing in the world about nature were not practicing leaving no trace and just leaving a mess. So they had to shut it down. It was supposed to open back up and this year, and now they have extended that out to 2026 because it's still recovering up there. So until it gets recovered well on its way, they will probably keep that closed. Hopefully by 2026 it can, and then I'm sure they're going to be doing something to monitor it somehow so that it doesn't ever get back to looking like that again. All right, folks, don't forget that I have got my hike coming up that I just finished in Massachusetts, so be looking for those to come out. That's all I got this week. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out here.